487 Marines. 35 minutes. That's the math of extinction. The words slipped from Staff Sergeant Ana Marquez before she even realized she'd spoken them. Inside the command tent at Fort Halcyon, every monitor glowed crimson. The digital map pulsed like a dying heart, unit markers blinking out one by one inside the canyon now known by a single call sign, Viper Gorge. Dust swirled through the open flap, carried by the desert wind. The air smelled of metal, diesel, and something worse, anticipation. Officers crowded around the table, faces pale in the screen's glow. "Hold position," the colonel said flatly. "Reinforcements inbound in 35. Anna's jaw tightened. 35 minutes. She'd already run the numbers in her notebook. No cover, no overwatch, no air support. It wasn't a plan, it was a prayer written in bureaucratic ink. She stood at the edge of the room, silent, the so-called supply NCO no one bothered to listen to. Her job was to count rounds, not predict ambushes. But 3 weeks ago, she'd warned them about that gorge. She'd traced it in pen, circled Ridge 7, and written in all caps, "Overwatch required." Nobody read it. Now, through the hum of servers and static-filled radio chatter, she could hear the faint echo of chaos from miles away: gunfire, the hollow bark of PKMs, the sound of men running out of luck. "Ma'am," a young lieutenant said carefully, "orders are clear." Anna didn't answer. Her eyes stayed on the map. The blue markers blinked slower, then vanished. One by one, she pressed her hand against the table. "Sir, if they're pinned in that canyon, Ridge 7 is the only line of sight that can cover extraction." "Denied," came the colonel's voice without looking up. "That ridge is unassigned. You step out there, you break protocol." Anna exhaled through her teeth. Then protocol's about to kill 487 Marines. The room went still. Someone muttered, "You're out of line." "Staff Sergeant." Maybe she was. But the math wasn't. Outside, the desert sun fell hard on Fort Halcyon's steel decks. Shadows stretched long over Humvees lined in rows. Anna walked past them, her boots hitting the metal grating in a steady rhythm, every step louder than the last. In the armory, the air was cold. She keyed open a locker. Few people knew she still had clearance for. Inside, under a canvas wrap, lay an M2010 enhanced sniper rifle, matte black, perfectly balanced, chambered in .300 Winchester Magnum. She ran her thumb across the barrel, the same way her father once had across his in Fallujah. The steel felt alive, almost breathing. She slung the rifle over her shoulder and checked the scope windage drum smooth, glass clean. A spare mag clicked into place. Behind her, the base loudspeakers barked. "All units stand by. Reinforcements ETA 34 minutes. Anna whispered to herself. 34's too long. The wind outside had shifted light from the west. 5 knots. She noted it without thinking. When she stepped out, the light hit her eyes and the sand rose around her like fog. Somewhere beyond that horizon, 487 lives waited for an order that wouldn't come. She gave herself one instead. Time to change the math. The story has only begun. Where are you watching from? Soldier, subscribe to Stories Unseen and stay ready for part 2. The armory door sighed shut behind Anna. Metal against metal final. Deliberate? Fluorescent light hummed overhead, bleaching the color from everything except the black of the M2010 resting on her lap. She sat on a crate, shoulders tense, notebook open across her knee. Each page was a map of Ghost's wind arrows, terrain grids, and a bold red circle drawn weeks ago, Viper Gorge Ridge 7, overwatch required. No one had listened. She could still hear the colonel's tone from that briefing, polite dismissal disguised as protocol. Noted. Sergeant, proceed. In military language. Noted meant forgotten. She thumbed the corner of the notebook, eyes tracing the faint coffee stain that blurred her handwriting. It felt like a prophecy someone had spilled. The words of her father echoed in memory. Rules keep you alive. Mija. But reading the wind keeps others alive. Outside. The storm of movement never stopped Humvees idling, loaders shouting grid coordinates, choppers spinning up. The base pulsed like a machine too big to question. Her Net Warrior tablet buzzed at her hip. Still linked to the ATAC overlay from yesterday's logistics run, it displayed supply routes, heat signatures, and active comm nodes. She hadn't shut it off, old habit, when she checked it. Her stomach went cold. Across the canyon grid, several icons flickered red routes she hadn't authorized. Then came a ping. External relay detected 10.4, 99.7. Anna frowned. That wasn't a Fort Halcyon address. That was a contractor enclave IP, a closed network only used by outside vendors and intel contractors. No field tablet should ever see it, she muttered. Someone's ghosting the same map I am. The uneasy thought hung like static. Her mind drifted back to the voices in the mess hall 3 nights ago, a lieutenant laughing. You bring that notebook to war, Marquez planning to write your way out. Laughter rolled around her like shrapnel. She'd smiled back then small, sharp but inside. It stung. She closed the notebook and stood. The M2010 gleamed faintly in the armory's sterile light. It felt like Defiance, made of steel. Before she left, she paused by the terminal in the corner, a command laptop still logged into operations. The cursor blinked in an open directory marked Overwatch request logs. Her heart kicked. She shouldn't look. She did anyway. Scrolling through lines of code and timestamps, she found her own request from 3 weeks earlier, the one she'd filed for Ridge 7. It was tagged, Reviewed, Zark, Denied. But a second line caught her eye, buried metadata, half hidden. Origin external node, IP 10.4.1.9.7, authorized unknown. She blinked, leaning closer. That wasn't clerical. That was tampering. Then the newest entry flashed across the log. A message injected into the feed only seconds ago. Stand down. No Overwatch. Repeat, no Overwatch. Her pulse spiked. She stepped back from the screen, the world suddenly smaller. Louder the hum of the lights, the throb of her heartbeat, the faint vibration of rotor blades overhead. Someone outside the wire was editing their mission orders in real time. Her father's voice drifted back again, calm, patient. When you feel the wind change, don't ask who sent it. Just move. Anna closed the laptop and picked up the rifle. The notebook slid back into her vest, pages fluttering like the breath of something alive. Outside, the sky over Viper Gorge burned the color of iron. She could almost hear the battle starting before it began. And somewhere between the static and the silence, a whisper not in her ear, but in the comm-net itself, Ghost 3 channel initializing. She froze. The call sign her father once used now, active again. Something was moving in the dark. Something that wasn't supposed to exist. The desert didn't whisper, that morning it screamed. Columns of smoke coiled over Viper Gorge, rising like dark prayers. The ground trembled with every impact. From the upper ridge, Staff Sergeant Anna Shade Marquez steadied her breath behind the glass of her M2010 eyes fixed on the valley below 487 Marines boxed in, fighting shadows in a canyon she'd warned them about weeks ago. And then came that voice again. Ghost 3, acknowledge. The sound froze her blood. Ghost 3 was supposed to be dead, a legacy call sign from her father's old Overwatch unit. No one had used it since Fallujah. She keyed her radio. Command. This is Staff Sergeant Marquez, who authorized Ghost 3 frequency. Only static replied. Then, faint, deliberate, not from command. Shade. Move. The voice was calm. Familiar, a low rasp threaded with something she hadn't heard in years. Recognition struck like recoil. Below, fire bloomed across the gorge. A line of Humvees burned, black smoke choking the sky. The rattle of Piquet machine guns echoed against stone. She dropped to prone, adjusted her scope, and exhaled. Range 900 meters. Wind 5 knots cross. Breathe in. Align. Exhale. Release. The first round cracked through the canyon, the sound slicing the chaos. One enemy gunner folded, then another. 2 shots. 2 bodies. Down below, Marines began to look up, scanning for the unseen guardian above the storm. Her headset hissed again. Nice shooting. Shade. Still remember Fallujah math. Her breath caught. Only one man ever said that, the man who taught it to her. "Who are you?" she whispered. "Someone who knew Miguel." Her throat tightened. "My father's dead." The answer came like a smirk through static. "You sure?" A long pause. Wind. Then breathing distant. "Steady. Get higher ground," the voice said finally. "Ridge 7's compromised." She hesitated only a second, then slung her rifle and began climbing. Rocks tore her gloves. Grit filled her lungs. The sun burned white-hot through smoke, baking her armor. Below, the firefight roared like a living thing. When she reached the next ledge, she dropped flat. Through her scope, she swept the horizon and saw it. A glint. 50 meters north. Movement precise. Trained. A figure in ghillie camouflage, low crawling across shale, carrying a MK-13 Mod 7 slung across the back. Not insurgent. Military. Ghost 3, she breathed. The figure froze, then raised 2 fingers to the temple. A salute. Her earpiece crackled again. "Told you I'd been watching." Anna's pulse thudded. "Why me?" the voice replied. Low and steady. "Because you're the only one still reading the wind." Before she could answer, command broke through harsh. "Metallic all units. This is Fort Halcyon command. Be advised, unauthorized overwatch fire detected from Ridge 7. Identify and stand down. Repeat. Stand down immediately." They were talking about her. Anna's radio light blinked red. The electronic warfare team at Halcyon was sweeping uplink pings, cross-referencing every active frequency in the canyon. They were triangulating her position, not guessing, but tracking. Her breath sharpened. "They're tracing me," the voice came back, unshaken. "Then make them listen before they shut you down." Static surged, drowning the channel. For a moment she heard something else beneath it. Not words, but a low mechanical hum, like an old signal awakening. Her visor flickered. Lines of data scrolled across the display, encrypted coordinates. Ghosted from nowhere, she recognized. Then, a single phrase appeared across her HUD in cold white text. "Welcome back." Shade. She froze. The world narrowing to that message pulsing against the glass. The canyon below thundered, but her mind was silent. Whatever Ghost 3 was, whoever it was, it had just come back online. 50 meters north, a figure in ghillie camouflage, low crawling across the shale, through her scope. Anna caught a glimpse of a MK-13 Mod 7 sniper rifle slung tight against his back. Marine issue. The way he moved was clean. Deliberate. This wasn't insurgent movement. This was training. "Ghost 3, she whispered. The figure froze, then raised 2 fingers to the temple, a silent salute. "Impossible," she breathed. Her radio hissed, that same voice, calm. "Steady." "Told you I'd been watching." Anna's breath caught. "Who are you?" "Someone who didn't die when they said he did." Her stomach turned. "Miguel." Their pause. "Then you shouldn't be here." "Mija, you were never supposed to find this ridge." She swallowed hard. eyes locked through the glass. "Dad." He lifted a hand, not to aim, but to activate a compact transmitter mounted beside him. Antennas snapped open like insect wings, blinking green in the dust. It wasn't a weapon. It was a data relay node, shielded and military grade, the kind used to piggyback classified signals. Realization hit her like recoil. The Mk-13 wasn't drawn for combat, it was part of the setup. The cover. "You're feeding my targeting data," she whispered. "You used my scope to finish your test." Miguel didn't deny it. "It was the only way they'd let me keep you alive." Her voice cracked. "You turned a rescue into a metric." He sighed, eyes soft through the mirage. "I turned a mistake into proof." But before she could respond, a single distant shot cut through the air sharp. Surgical. Miguel jerked backward, the relay sparking beside him. The Mk-13 fell from his shoulder, clattering against stone. Anna screamed, diving for cover as the transmission exploded into static. The air stank of burning circuits. Then a new voice came over her radio female, precise. Cold. "This is Command Unit Aegis. Ghost 3 terminated. Protocol complete." Anna froze. Her father hadn't been the architect. He'd been the experiment. She looked down at the ridge, the twisted remains of the relay blinking its final light. And through the smoke, one phrase burned into her mind. He was never meant to survive the test. She clenched her fists, her breath ragged. The chain of command didn't end at Fort Halcyon. It went higher, darker, quieter, and as the sun bled out behind the desert ridge, Anna whispered to herself, "I'm done following ghosts." The desert had gone silent. No gunfire, no orders, just wind-dry and endless whispering through the wreckage of Viper Gorge. By the time the extraction birds came, the smoke had already faded into twilight. The Black Hawks circled low, rotors cutting through the last rays of sun. Marines staggered toward them, dirty, bruised but alive, and unashamed. Marquez walked last. Her sleeve was torn, her arm bandaged in layers of field gauze. Every step felt heavier than the one before, but she didn't stop. In her chest pocket was her father's notebook burned at the edges. But still there. The last thing that hadn't lied to her. As she reached the tarmac, the same colonel who'd once called her reckless was waiting. His voice came quiet. "Careful. You disobeyed every order we gave you." "Staff Sergeant." Anna met his eyes. "Yes, sir." He hesitated. "You also saved 487 lives." She looked past him to the stretchers being loaded onto the choppers, men too tired to cheer, too grateful to speak. "No, sir," she said softly. "They saved each other. I just made sure they had the chance." He wanted to say something duty, commendation, maybe even apology, but words felt small against what she'd done. He simply nodded once. "We'll be in touch." She knew what that meant. A board, a review, a quiet erasure of what didn't fit the official narrative. Heroes don't disobey. Not on paper. She walked away before he could finish. Inside the dim armory tent, she laid the M2210 down on the metal table. Its barrel was scarred where the heat had bitten through the finish. She touched it like a relic, not a weapon. Across from it, she placed her dog tag beside her father's, the two bits of steel clinking together like a whispered goodbye. From the doorway, Aaron, the young medic, lingered. "You're really leaving?" Anna smiled faintly. "I was never supposed to stay." He shifted awkwardly, then asked, "Was it worth it?" She looked down at the notebook, its last page open, her handwriting next to her father's faded ink. 2 lines meeting after years apart. Her answer came slow. "Steady. He taught me that duty means following orders, but valor means knowing when not to." Outside, The wind stirred the sand again, sweeping across the base like an old prayer. Floodlights flickered on, casting long shadows that stretched until they disappeared into the desert. Anna picked up the notebook, slipped it into her vest, and stepped outside. Every sound seemed distant now, the choppers lifting, the boots shuffling, the quiet gratitude that didn't need words. She paused at the edge of the runway, where the desert began again, vast, brutal, beautiful. Somewhere beyond those dunes lay the truth about Aegis, about her father, about why Ghost Protocol was ever resurrected. But that would come later. For now, there was only silence, the kind that felt like peace, not punishment. She turned her face toward the horizon and whispered to the wind. The same words her father once told her: rules keep you alive. Choices make you human. A faint, metallic chime answered two dog tags colliding in the breeze, one engraved with Miguel Marquez, one with Ana Marquez. And in that sound, the story ended the way all wars should, not with victory, but understanding. Because valor isn't the roar that follows the fight. It's the quiet that stays after the silence you carry when the world forgets what it cost. Quiet valor. Always earned. Never claimed.